Hey everyone, I am here today with Patrick, who I'm really excited to have a cool conversation with to just talk about change and freedom. So, Patrick has found a lot of change in his life kind of through this understanding that we share in the Little School of Big Change, or next to this understanding. It's influenced him in ways that he's going to share with us. So, we'll just dive right in. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm really excited to actually be on this show. This is Dr. Amy Johnson. Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
I know that's sarcasm, right? No.
No, no, no. I wish it was, but it really isn't.
No, well, I'm glad to have you. So, yeah, maybe just if you could, and we'll just see where this goes. But tell us a little bit about like when things were hard. I know for you there was a thing around kind of dating relationships where I'll keep it really open, but that looked and felt one way. And then something happened. And then dating relationships, that whole sphere of life kind of started to look and feel a different way. So maybe kind of give us a picture of where it was when it wasn't so good. And then kind of we can talk about what happened.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my name is Patrick Wu, and I consider myself a charm coach. And about 11 years ago, I remember I was 20 years old and I was dateless. I never actually went on a date with a woman, didn't have any friends that were women, didn't have any contact with women. And then there was this one time where this one girl decided to say, "Hey, Patrick, I'd love to come on a date with you." And I was completely ecstatic about it. I asked all my friends what to do and how to dress and all that. And then I went on this date with her, and I never like ever kissed a girl, or I never really didn't know what you're supposed to do after dates. So I was walking her to her dorm room at the time when we were both in college, and I was standing right outside of this dorm room with her, and I said to her, "Hey, I really really like you." And she said back to me, "Hey, Patrick, I like you, but I'm not really in that way." And ever since in that very moment, I remember feeling really, really crushed. And that day, it uh, s- kind of, what do you call it? It kind of solidified the fact that, oh, Patrick, you're not good at this game of dating because this girl said that you are not her type. And so from because of that one thing, I ended up creating this complete crazy identity around, Patrick, you are exactly the kind of guy that does not date women, or is not good with women, or you're not the kind of guy that goes on dates with women, or you're not the kind of guy that will have that happy life in dating. So and then I revolved my entire like next 11 years around that one moment. So that's kind of like how my life was before learning all this cool stuff.
Yeah, I love that's such a vivid story, but it's so common. Like that's what happens, right? Probably so many times in everyone's lives around different things. Like we're talking about that pivotal moment. It was just a thought that popped in your head, but it looked like the absolute truth. And then everything carries on from
Yeah.
there. And it's like we have so many of those in life, especially when we don't know to not take everything so seriously.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it was that one moment where I did take that one scenario or that one moment in time really, really seriously. And I thought that it was real 100% of the time, all the time. I thought that, okay, well, because I had an unattractive moment to this one person, it must mean 100% of my time I am unattractive. And and because I solidified that idea, I was never really able to kind of see things outside of that, because that's the only thing that I actually saw.
Yeah. So say more about that. Like if like maybe someone could have been interested in you again in the
Oh,
11th
sure.
moment, right?
Yeah.
But you're just kind of blind to it.
Yeah. And so for instance, I would have, let's say if a woman ever said yes to me on a date, I'm like, oh, wow. Like she really doesn't know that I'm unattractive. Like, I'm doing the biggest, I'm like completely tricking her, or I'm totally coming under the radar, or I'm thinking, well, and the other way, I'm also thinking, I hope she doesn't find out that I'm really unattractive, or let me try to keep up this thing going until she finds out the real truth.
Yeah.
And that just kind of, I mean, it was always kind of like a very, uh, very, it gave a lot of anxiety. That is what gave a lot of anxiety to me back in the day when I was around the dating area of like, oh no, like when are they going to figure out that I'm a complete fraud? That
Yeah.
really I am, like, if only they knew that I was unattractive. Like, but I'm going to try to keep playing this role for a little while, that
Right.
I'm actually kind of cool. So, so that's kind of like what I went through with that belief, or that thing that I thought was true, at least.
Yeah. So what started to chip at that? Like what made you ever see differently?
Yeah, well, I went through a bunch of different like tried a bunch of different models of trying to change my thinking, or change or have better thinking about myself, or changing my viewpoint of myself. And all that kind of worked sometimes, but it never worked. I never felt like I really had it. Like it was always like, oh, why don't I just kind of trick myself into believing these kind of things? And then one day I learned about this thing called the three principles. And one of the things that really, really changed the way that I saw this was that everything was made of thought. And when I saw it, wait, if everything is made of thought, then maybe that thing that I thought was real was also just a thought. And maybe that's not really as permanent as I thought it was. And I just kind of questioned myself one day, and I thought, well, Patrick, what if maybe that unattractive thing that happened to you 11 years ago, what if that thing wasn't really real? And when I just started questioning myself, all of a sudden I start to see new possibilities. I start to see myself outside of what kind of like personality I created for myself. And that's what I start to see beyond this thing of, Patrick, this is who you are, this unattractive guy. What if maybe some moments I wasn't attractive? Maybe some moments I was attractive. Maybe some moments I was funny and entertaining, and other moments I was really boring and not sad. And I just became all these things. And one of the things that I know that you wrote about is being human. So in a sense, I was becoming more human.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I was thinking as you're saying that, like just like everyone else, right? We all have those moments, but it's like for you that just sort of escaped you because you grabbed onto that one image and that's just who you were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once I kind of opened up, or kind of, I guess the moment when I questioned myself,
Yeah.
like, hey, what if you were really wrong?
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I started to transform.
I love that so much 'cause, like, that's a question. I just love that, like, what if, you know? I mean, none of us who have seen anything about thought or just how life works, like, it doesn't feel good, and it's not particularly helpful to go around and be like, "So, you know, you're just feeling your thinking," to people all the time. Things, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, no one wants to hear that, but to put it in that way, like, you naturally put it for yourself, and, you know, it's like, what if that's wrong? Like, what if that really was just
Mhm.
thought? What if that woman had never said that? Or if she had said it, but you had heard it differently, you didn't make it mean all that stuff,
Mhm.
everything could have been different. And those are the kind of questions to just not to convince yourself like you were doing when you were doing the positive thinking thing.
Yeah.
Just like you said, like just pose it and then just see what shows up.
Mhm. Yeah, and that really was, to me, just I'm just so grateful for seeing that,
Yeah.
because previously to that, because I created that identity of I was unattractive as a guy, I had to cope with that. I had to start from that idea of, okay, because you are unattractive, how do I now cope with this idea of being unattractive? How do I now work with this idea because I'm unattractive? Now, how can I work around this? And, and, and that, to me, even working with a lot of different clients these days, that's what I kind of see with a lot of men, or even women around this idea where if they started to see outside of the idea that they're broken in a sense, or they would start to see new possibilities.
Yeah. And when we're so busy trying to cope with something that looks like a given, you're just blind. You're still stuck in that.
Exactly. Yeah. I've kind of like given up on the idea of coping. I just don't like the idea of coping anymore.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So how did things start to change, like in your dating life and stuff? I mean, was there like a big change that happened pretty quickly, or has it been just sort of a gradual thing?
Yeah. Well, I remember a long time ago, I thought to myself, one day when I wake up, I'm going to have this amazing dating life and I'm going to feel like I've conquered the world. And then 11 years later, or last night when I woke up, I was like, wow, I've come a really far away. And when I look back, I'm like, was that what life was like? Was that what life used to look like? Like, wow, that was kind of silly that I used to live that way. And everything did, in a sense, gradually change. But the more that I saw that I wasn't, that I was more than the idea of this unattractive guy that I created for myself,
Mhm.
I really started, I think everything just started feeling good. I think there was that moment when I realized, when I had the feeling of, wow, I feel really connected to people, to myself. And that feeling that I start to feel, in a sense, that's what really changed. Now, my outside world also changed, but the biggest thing that changed was my moment to moment experience of everyday life.
Wow. And that changed, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like what you kind of just said is like that, like you weren't stuck in this, I'm unattractive, I'm bad at this, I can't have relationships anymore. Like that's what started to look different and lift. And then would you say like that just beneath when that wasn't there pervading your mind all the
Yeah.
time, like, things
Uh-huh.
got better?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that I started to finally see that, well, I actually have no idea now, because I'm kind of free of this idea. I can just try out some things now. Like before, I was like, well, I'm this unattractive guy, so that means that I can't. Even if I try, I'll fail at this, or even if I try, this is what is always going to happen. And
Yeah.
I just started to say, well, what if I don't really know, and I put myself out into different situations, and a lot of times I would surprise myself, like, oh wow, so this person actually likes me. Oh wow, like, oh, this person and I actually have a really nice connection. Oh wow, this person wants to spend more time with me, and I just kept surprising myself over and over again, to the point where I just stopped, having so much of that. In your book, the small book of big changes. I stopped living in that small mind, or the reptilian mind.
Yeah.
And I started to notice there's like a different kind of voice, which is like kind of the bigger voice, which
Yeah.
was the nicer feeling that I was talking about. So that's kind of like what I kind of saw.
It's so cool because it's almost like like what I thought of when you were describing that is it's like you kind of were like a little kid again, just sort of
Yeah.
exploring.
Hmm.
You're like, huh,
Hmm.
what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that?
Hmm.
Which is huge for people to see because it's not that positive thinking stuff and that coping stuff that you were doing before. It's not like
Hmm.
you were walking around saying these mantras like everyone loves me, like
Uh-huh.
that's what it looks like we should do, but you didn't know, and you were in this
Hmm.
place of just exploring and discovering, and what you're saying is that was really fun and joyful, and which I think is great for
Hmm.
people to hear.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said like the positive thinking thing, because I actually did a lot of that kind of thing. Like there were many mornings when I would wake up and I would look into the mirror and I would say, I love you," trying to convince myself
Yeah.
that that I could love myself. But then one day I realized, wait, if someone really loved themselves, would they really have to do that? Like, wouldn't that be just a given? If they love themselves, yeah, I love myself, of course.
Yeah.
Would they really have to convince themselves in front of a mirror? And that was kind of a funny thing that I thought. And the second thing that you were talking about is, yeah, I felt like a little boy again. Like, and when I interacted with other people, I was bringing them into that nice feeling also. So like the guys that I start to meet in as friends, like they start to get this nice feeling around me, and women also, they're like, wow, I feel like a little girl that can express herself again, like when I was really young. And for me, that feeling of that nice feeling of feeling that like that little boy again, that's what kind of brought this nice connection with everyone.
Yeah, that's so cool. And just to see, yeah, it's like a stripping away, like when stuff fell away, that connection was there. And um, like we were kind of saying earlier, that it can look like, and you tell me your experience with this, but it can look like, you grow up, you get to a certain age, and you get connection through relationships and through dating and through other people. That's just sort of the story that we're sold. But you're like, now when we're talking about the change that really kind of happened that mattered to you, it was like this connection, it sounds like, that you felt within you that then spread to everyone. It wasn't that
Mm,
suddenly you had a girlfriend. It was,
yeah.
it was more like a feeling from within you.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember a long time ago feeling, okay, you know what? Once I have a girlfriend, then I'll start to get that nice feeling,
Yeah.
that little boy feeling. But I remember the moment that I actually got one of my first girlfriends, I was like, huh, how come I'm not feeling that feeling I thought I was gonna get? And I remember that kind of threw me off course a little bit, because I was like, huh, I thought I would be feeling a lot better if I had a girlfriend, or if I had better circumstances. But that moment when I started to feel really, really good, or was connected back to that nice feeling again, that was what helped me connect with, everyone and everything, and mostly myself. And I realized that, oh, it's actually not other people giving me these nice feelings. I'm the one that's actually creating all the feelings
Yeah,
inside.
that's great. So, yeah, so now what? Like, how does it look
Yeah.
now? Like, you help people, you help other people see this, right?
Yeah. Well, these days I kind of use this nice feeling to kind of experiment with a lot. Well, I do a lot of experimentation, like YouTube videos and different things that are. I really like socially experimenting with life. So sometimes it might be in the form of dates or YouTube videos, or weird experiments. So yeah, I'm just kind of spreading this feeling in a sense to everyone else that is looking for it.
It's such a cool thing because, I mean, we started talking about relationships, but it's like such a big, it's almost like what it's making me think of anyway. It's like all the things that people are so afraid of in life. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of failure, all that stuff. Like when you talk about, oh, I just like experimenting in life. I mean, that's the opposite of that in a lot of ways. Not that, at times you might not feel those things, but that's one of the big promises, I think, in sort of seeing this, is that
Hmm.
we're free to go out and engage in life in a much
Hmm.
different way.
Yeah, I remember one time I was at this seminar, and there was this one woman that I really wanted to talk to. And I remember thinking, well, she's probably out of my league, she probably doesn't want to talk to me. So but I remember always wanting to talk to this person, but for some reason I was always sitting on the opposite side of the room as her. So I was like, huh, I think I'm probably doing that in some weird way or whatnot. And then one day on the last day of this seminar, when I walked up to this woman, I was like, hey, you know what? You're the person that I really, and for some reason, I don't even know why I said this, but it was kind of like I'll just kind of experiment with this. So I went up to this person and I was like, hey, you're the person I felt like I really wanted to talk to this entire time for these last 4 or 5 days. And she's like, wow, really? Like, I wish you told me that, because I wanted to talk to you too. And and before having this kind of understanding, I would never even experiment with that idea. And now I'm like, huh, well, I wonder what else to experiment with these days,
Yeah.
and see who I connect with, and see where this kind of, to see like where all my relationships take me.
Do you think part of that freedom to just experiment has just, like, you have such a vivid example of someone saying, I don't like you in that way, and your mind making it something. And then you have a vivid example, really kind of vivid experience, really, of sort of unseeing that, like seeing, oh, no, it didn't mean that. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of think that is, I don't know if it's even a fair question or if you even know, but there's just such a sense from you of like, well, why not? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, I guess instead of what's the worst that can happen, I'm like, I wonder what could happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the question, like, what would happen if I did this?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I really have like this nice feeling. It's guiding me to do this or come this way. And I just kind of follow this nice feeling to see who I end up connecting. And sometimes I really surprise myself. I'm always kind of like surprising myself, like, wow, that happened.
Yeah.
And I guess as this charm coach, a lot of times when I even work with men or whatnot, I don't even see it as, hey, let's go talk to some women. It's like, hey, why don't we create some magical moments? That's
Yeah.
kind of like what it's become.
Yeah.
And we'll see who ends up in our life. And it's pretty exciting.
And there's such a difference between following a feeling, like you said that a couple times, like I just have this nice feeling in me that leads me to do things. What do you, what do you say, like when people are like, well, I don't know, like you can tell when somebody's coming from their thinking about who they like, what they might, even what they like, what they might want to do. You know, I'm not the kind of person who, or I don't like that kind of thing. Like, but yeah, and you're talking about doing things that you kind of don't have that thinking about ahead of time. It sounds like you're just letting a feeling. So I don't know what the question is, but can you kind of
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. Well, I think that I think that's kind of it, though, in a sense, where a lot of people they want something, like they want to meet someone or they want to go somewhere or connect with someone, and then all of a sudden they're like they get caught in a lot of thinking, and then all of a sudden they start strategizing. Wait, what was that best line that I heard from Patrick, or what was that nice line that someone told me to say, or what was that next step I'm supposed to be doing? And then as they're spending all their time thinking about what they should be doing, they're actually now no longer interacting or connecting with this person or even connecting with themselves. They're now lost in thought in their own reality. Now they're like in a daydream. They're in a fantasy, thinking about, well, I really like how do I talk to this person? How do I do this? How do I be connected to talk to this person? And they're just kind of lost in that kind of space. So I always kind of, I guess I heard this from my co-host Veronique Pivetta, and she told me that there are only ever two places that you can be, and that's either in your mind or you're actually connecting with someone in front of you. So if you're really, really raveled up and you have a lot in your mind, uh, come back. Look at your hands. Notice where you are. Come back to reality,
Yeah.
and you might feel super connected again in that moment.
I love that too, because it takes all that all that stuff about them and all just all that thinking out of the equation. Because if it's like if that's true, and I think
Hmm.
that's true, like you're either in your head or you're connecting with another person, there's no such thing as compatibility, or you know, we don't have anything in common, or like that garbage is just more thinking, right? So you're either
Yeah,
in that and then you're not connected, obviously, or you're not in that and you have that potential for connection.
yeah, definitely. And I'm still trying to figure this out still, like, because I still think that there is something when it comes to, like, I've had a lot of discussions about how sometimes, now maybe this is just me, but sometimes like in romantic relationships, sometimes there's you naturally do kind of feel an extra type of chemistry with someone.
Mhm.
But I do also believe at the same time that it's very possible to be connected with just about anyone that is in front of you at the same time.
Yeah.
So I do kind of see both. And the more that and the more that I'm enjoying my experience more of the time, or I'm having a better experience, it seems that my preferences don't matter as much.
Hmm.
Like I need to have the sexiest woman ever on my arm, otherwise I won't be satisfied. And I see that the more I am actually really enjoying myself and I'm enjoying my experience, my own personal experience of life and everything, uh, the ones the ones start to multiply. Like it feels like I'm like everyone's my soulmate in a sense. I remember a long time ago I was like, well, this person has to be like this, and they have to have like these qualities, they have to be this tall, they have to have this eye color, they have to be this kind of personality. And the more that I kind of uh, had a really really like like almost too specific idea of what the one should be like, the more it felt like no one was ever the one. I could never find this person.
Yeah.
And the more that I see that this connection, that this nice feeling, this connection that I have with myself, whenever I get to experience this more with myself and with other people, other women or whatnot, it feels like, wow, like everyone could be my soulmate, and it's a pretty magnificent feeling.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's so great. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really love how you share this, and you can really feel just that childlike feeling and that excitement and stuff coming from you, and it's really great to talk with you.
yeah, well, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for everything today.
Yeah, thanks.